So, just like last week, where I decided to do the review for the first 6 games before the last game of this MLS Matchweek, I'm going to do the same thing this week. Although this week, for whatever reason, MLS decided that on Sunday there's supposed to be a 2.5 hour gap between the second to the last game of the match week. I have no idea why that is the case, but that does give me time during this period where I can first talk about the first 6 games, and then once that last game finished, which it's between the Galaxy and RSL, I believe, then that's when I can basically do the review for the last 6 games, and that I don't have to basically spend an hour and a half doing the review after the final game, and it saved me about 30 minutes. But that being said, let's get into this match week, and there wasn't a whole ton of goals in this match week, although there was one game that kind of all hell broke loose in terms of the goal scoring and also the disciplinary and also the controversy that gone on. But first of all, we'll start with NYCFC, who they, of course, drew 1-1 to Orlando City. Orlando City, of course, got an early lead in this game in the 19th minute with Nani scoring there to give them a 1-0 lead. And then in the 34th minute, it looked like Orlando City was going to take a 2-0 lead. And for those of you that say that Yankee Stadium is an awful stadium to play and show some big evidence of why it's an awful stadium to play soccer, this is basically an example of that. So what happened in this play was when the ball was played in the middle, Collins basically got caught off the turf of Yankee Stadium. He looked like he was about to clear the ball, but his foot kind of got stuck into the turf of Yankee Stadium, and he literally just falled off, and then it just goes right into Nani, who looked like for sure that was going to be 2-0 Orlando City. But the good news for NYCFC is that Orlando City was offside in that situation, and yeah, Collins basically saved himself an embarrassing kind of moment. Although I mean, in some way that was bad defending for him, but at the same time, you also gotta say that that's why Yankee Stadium should not be hosting soccer, and why it is just total inept why NYCFC is still playing at Yankee Stadium, because the turf is absolutely god-awful, and there's an evidence of that. Now, in the second half, NYCFC really started to put a lot of pressure on Orlando City. Orlando City, they didn't really had a lot of chance in this game. The 90 chance was really one of their best chance that they had in this game. And eventually, all that pressure that NYCFC put on Orlando City paid off, because in the 51st minute, Abar get his second goal as an NYCFC player to tie this game at 1-1, and that is your final score in this game, as unfortunately for NYCFC, they couldn't quite find that second goal. Shots in this game, NYCFC had 15 shots compared to only 3 that Orlando City had, 5 shots on goal compared to 2 that Orlando City had, 6 shots off target compared to 1 that Orlando City had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to none that Orlando City has, and NYCFC had 66% possession compared to 34% possession that Orlando City has. So for Orlando City, despite the fact that they didn't do much in this game, I think this is a perfect road game for them, that they can just get out of Yankee Stadium with at least a point. I mean, when you go on the road and play at Yankee Stadium, it's always one of the toughest places to play. Not because NYCFC is a very decent team, but it's because Yankee Stadium and the configuration is just kind of throw off in terms of the usual tactics that you would go throughout the game, and also the fact that that turf is absolutely garbage. So yeah, they'll be happy that they got out with a point, and as for NYCFC, they'll be frustrated the fact that they couldn't make it 3 in a row, consider the fact that how much they dominate in this game. But yeah, moving on, in the next match is TFC, who they lose to Portland. And Portland, you know how in the first 6 games and how everybody were making joke about the Timbers being the worst team in the league and how they were losing every single game, and it seemed like throughout this 12-game road trip they're not going to get at least one win in this 12-game road trip. All of a sudden they have now got back-to-back wins, and all of a sudden they look like the Timbers team that made it to the MLS Cup final last year. In the first half, Osorio scored to make it 1-0 in favor of TFC, and at that point you think, okay, maybe TFC is going to get a couple goals to potentially make this a very ugly game. But that's not what happened, because 2 minutes later, Bill Tuluma scores from the corner that Valeri basically delivered, and what a goal this was from Tuluma. I mean, when that ball was coming into the box off the corner, he absolutely striked that one on the volley. Like, he couldn't strike that ball on the volley any better with the way he did, and he absolutely put a missile toward the left side of the post, and that certainly would be a goal that would be nominated as the goal of the week, and maybe even win the goal of the week. That was just an incredible goal, and you got to keep in mind, Tuluma, he's a defender. You usually do not see defender hit that kind of strike. I mean, usually when you see defenders score a goal from a corner, they usually probably head it in, but they don't usually just hit it on the volley and just completely cuts it in a very sweet spot. And I think that is probably one of 100 chance that Tuluma were able to convert, and that one time he converts it, it was in this situation. Now, in the second half, things kind of died down a little bit, and I thought this game there was going to be plenty of goals in this game because of how both attack was looking very decent and the defense for both teams wasn't very good. And for TFC, obviously they did not have Josie Altidore in this game, which I think this was a huge factor for them, because without Altidore it looked like their attack just looked very stale, and Pozuelo didn't really have a good game in this game, probably the worst game that he has so far with TFC. But Portland, of course, go up 2-1 as Ibobasi puts it away from Blanco and Valeri. They had a chance to put the game away with Chara going one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but unfortunately he just put that shot wide. But it doesn't matter, because the Timbers walking out with 3 points again on the road. And in terms of the shots in this game, Portland definitely were, when you look at the shots, Portland were definitely the better team in this game. 11 shots compared to 6 that TFC had. Both team has 3 shots on goal. 6 shots compared to 1 that TFC had. 2 shot block for both team. And TFC does have better of the possession, 56% compared to 44%. But overall, Portland, they were definitely the better team, and they definitely deserve to get all 3 points on the road. And this is exactly what Portland needed. Like, I think right now with Portland, it doesn't matter if they don't win any of their game remain. I think they're definitely in a good spot, because I said in the beginning of the season with this Timbers team, if they want to make the playoffs this season, and knowing that they got this massive 12-game road trip that they have to endure, if they can get at least 2 or 3 or even 4 wins in this 12-game road trip, then they'll be fine. They'll definitely will have that kind of second half resurgence that the Sounders and DC United has in the past, because they're so good at Providence Park, and now they have got 2 wins on the chart. It looked like they are kind of in prime position of making the playoffs. I know it sounds crazy to say that the Timbers are in prime position of making the playoffs, consider they're still at the bottom of the Western Conference. But hey, that's what happened when you have 12-game road trip, and when you have a team that do not usually do very well on the road, but they tend to do very well at home. But yeah, next up is the Quakes. So they drew 0-0 against FC Dallas. And, all this talk of me thinking, well, this is a game that I am really concerned of how the Quakes will play in the second half, because of the fact that this is the 3rd game in 7 days, and that fatigue is going to be a massive issue, and especially how it was like 85 degrees down in Dallas, and it's a day game. Yeah, something tells me the intensity level will really drop off in the second half, and that's when I am very concerned. Now, in the first half, there was no score, but there was definitely chances for both teams. Barrios had a chance 30 seconds into the game to give Dallas a 1-0 lead. We also had a couple of chances of our own, including one that I think Salinas plays the ball to Houston. Houston had a tap in to basically put it into the net, but it was good save from Jesse Gonzalez, and that could have easily gave us a 1-0 lead. But heading into halftime 0-0, I think it's fair that it heads to halftime with a 0-0 game, consider both teams kind of missed some opportunity. But for me, as much as I'm okay with the fact that the Quakes head to halftime scoreless, my concern has to be with what's this second half is going to look like, because I've seen so many times this season when the Quakes on the road in the second half, they always capitulate late in the game because they get tired out. And this is a prime example of it. Consider, like I said, they play this is their third game in 7 days, and that fatigue level is going to get there. But that didn't happen. Instead, it was the complete opposite of what I thought. The Quakes, they actually control the second half and really just dictate the play of the game. Like, I couldn't believe how comfortable we were on the ball and how Dallas just decided to sit back and it almost felt like I was watching a home game the way that the Quakes play. And something that I have never seen the Quakes do on the road, where they just look so comfortable against a opposition team that is playing at home. Now, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Paxi Palmico did get subbed off at halftime with an injury, and I think losing him at halftime was a huge blow to Dallas because they just didn't have a number 10 that can basically operate on the attack, and they just kind of elected to sit back. But the Quakes, they basically control the game, and it almost as if this looks way too easy to be true with the way that we're going. And, during that time when we controlled the game, we didn't really create a lot of chances, but it looked like Dallas just saying, well, have a go at it. If you walk out with a 0-0 draw, we don't mind the fact that you can walk out of here with a 0-0 draw. Now, the intensity level did eventually started to drop off a little bit right about the 70th minute, where we started to give the ball away a little bit carelessly, and that's when Dallas really started to attack. And really, in the second half, the biggest chances that Dallas had was because of our mistake. They could not do anything in terms of creating from the back, and was rarely crossing the Quakes half when they work their way from the back and trying to go forward on the attack. It was just a very slow game after that. But then Mateus Almeida, he decided to make a very bold decision by starting to put some of our attacker in. And when I saw that, I was really nervous because I thought we were probably maybe decided to sub off some of our defenders for another defenders for kind of like a light-to-light switch. But the fact that he decided to put some attacker in and kind of throw the kitchen sink at Dallas, I was really concerned because now we're going to be exposed at the back with the way that we don't have a lot of defender, and that if we're not careful, we are going to concede a goal. But instead, it was kind of just like how this game, what I thought this game has turns out to be the complete opposite of what I thought. That is exactly what happened. We absolutely threw the kitchen sink at Dallas. Dallas was just basically barely hanging on at home. Wando, late in the game, had a chance from a header that, oh my goodness, you talk about this season of Wando missing some decent chances that came oh so close from Thailand and Donovan's record. Here's an example of it when the ball was crossed in and he basically hit that one just wide, and that almost gave us a dramatic last minute win at Dallas and would have give us 3 points in this game. But at the end of the day, it is a 0-0 draw in this game, and in terms of the shots in this game, it was relatively close. But if you just look at the second half shots, the Quakes absolutely dominate in terms of that chart. But overall, the Quakes had 13 shots compared to 11 that Dallas had, 2 shots on goal compared to 4 that Dallas has, 9 shots off target compared to 5 that Dallas has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and the Quakes had 59% possession compared to 41% possession. And this is probably the most percent of possession that we ever had on the road in a very long time. I don't remember the last time the Quakes had that much possession on the road. And again, it just felt like it was a home game, the way that the Quakes were playing in this game. And in some way, this is the second game in a row where I kind of want to say that I'm a little bit disappointed the Quakes didn't get all 3 points. And, a couple of weeks ago, if you would have told me that when we play against Dallas, Seattle, and SKC, and we can get 5 points in a span of those 3 games in 7 days, I would take it in a heartbeat. But the way that this week has gone, and the way that we had a chance to beat Seattle if we didn't blow a 2-0 lead, and here we had a chance late in the game to grab a late goal, we could have easily had 9 points this week. But that being said, my expectation of the Quakes is kind of a little bit low right now, and me saying that they should have got 9 points is kind of a little bit above the expectation of what I want this team. I mean, after this week, I still don't think this team can make the playoffs. I know that they have definitely played much better in the last couple of weeks, but the thing is, the West this year is just way too strong, and that knowing the Timbers are starting to climb their way back up, it's really, I think it's like the 7th spot is the only one that is up, because I know the first 2 spot is probably going to be owned by LA, and then Seattle is probably going to be the 3rd spot, and then the 4th spot and the 5th spot might belong to Portland and Houston, and it depends on what's going to happen. And also the 6th spot, or actually the 4th spot, is probably going to belong to SKC, and then the 5th and 6th spot is probably going to belong to Houston and Portland, and then it's just the 7th spot that is left to take. So I mean, it's going to be very close. If we can keep playing like this, then I definitely will have more beliefs that we can make the playoffs. But now, I still think that we're just going to miss out, and that I think with us now heading into May, where we're going to definitely get some very easy opponent. The next opponent we face is FC Cincinnati, which that game at home is probably the most confident that I have with the Quakes winning a game of the whole season, because as I'm going to mention later with FC Cincinnati, they're kind of heading into a little bit of a downward spiral. But yeah, certainly right now it's definitely good to be a Quakes fan with the way that the team has been playing. And as for FC Dallas, it's kind of a frustrating way to drop points at home, and it feels like the Quakes is just their kryptonite. Like, this is basically kind of like their bogey team, where they just, for whatever reason, no matter how bad the Quakes are, Dallas just seems to figure out the Quakes and just cannot beat them for whatever reason. But yeah, next up is Vancouver, who they drew against Philly in this game, but for the Whitecaps, they clearly should have won this game. And, the missed chances in this game will really drive them crazy. And I know after the game, a lot of players said that they should have won this game because they had so many chances to score more than one goal. And even Marc Dos Santos kind of mentioned the fact that, we missed so many good chances. We were so wasteful in front of goal that we could have easily had all 3 points in this game. And in the first half, after just wasting numerous chances in the first 30 minutes, Donnell Henry finally got a goal for Vancouver, and got the goal that they deserved from Adnan. And this was coming from a corner where that was a very good, powerful header from Donnell Henry. I mean, he basically just hit that one low and powerful in the header. And when you see that from defender, it's obviously going to be very hard to try to keep that ball out of the net. So Vancouver heads to halftime with a 1-0 lead, and in the second half, it's the same thing. They had so many chances of potentially getting that insurance goal to make it 2-0, but unfortunately, they kind of got caught in the sucker punch, because the Union, they came back in this game. Shibleko, I think that's how you pronounce his name, scored his first ever goal for the Union from Jamar Montero, and this was just a silly giveaway from Ali Adnan. I mean, as much as Ali Adnan has been very good for the Whitecaps this year, this was a very silly mistake where he basically just he was under pressure, and then he basically gave the ball straight to Shibleko, who puts the ball into the back of the net to make it a 1-1 game. And then Vancouver also had a goal that was called offside after Jordi Reyna went through on goal. And Jordi Reyna and the rest of the Vancouver player were actually celebrating that they thought that they scored a goal, but the flag was up a long time ago. And I'm not quite sure that they go to VAR to look at that instant, but it was pretty clear that it was offside. So that was the final score of this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, Vancouver had 12 shots compared to 11 that the Union has. They had 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Union has. 4 shots off target compared to 7 that the Union had. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Union had. And Vancouver had 52% possession compared to 48% possession. So, like I said, for Vancouver, they'll be very frustrated the fact that they couldn't get a win despite how many chances that they have been. I mean, they basically kind of suffer the old saying of the fact that if you are not clinical and you can't put the ball into the back of the net, then yeah, it doesn't matter how many chances that you created. If you don't do that, then you are not going to score a goal. And for the Union, it wasn't a pretty game for them, but they got out of this game with a point, and I think they'll be happy with it, consider the form of the Union in terms of on the road hasn't been very good this season. So, yeah. But speaking of team that hasn't been very good, Atlanta. They finally got their first home win in this game, and albeit, you knew that this was an absolute must-win for Atlanta against Colorado, who is the worst team in the league, and they are the last winless team in the league. And after this week, they remain the last winless team in this week because Atlanta, they grab a 1-0 win against Colorado, and despite this win, I'm pretty sure a lot of Atlanta fans are still feeling a little bit uneasy with this team because, again, this was not a very good performance by Atlanta. And, one thing that I found interesting at the end of the game is that Frank de Boer, at the post-game interview, he said that Colorado basically parked 2 buses in this game and that they weren't really even playing in this game. They're just there to basically just park the bus and hope that they can get out with a point. I mean, what did you expect? What did you expect from Colorado with the fact that you thought that they were going to just play free-flowing football and they're just going to really try to push the tempo? Obviously, when you're playing against the worst team in the league, you know for sure that they're going to park the bus, especially when they are on the road. And I just find it a little bit baffling, the fact that De Boer would say that. And I know a lot of fans have been criticized of De Boer saying the fact that, they parked the bus in this game, and it's shameful that the fact that they did that. And I know a lot of European coaches, I watch some European soccer too, and a lot of coaches usually say that in the press conference, where when they face a team that tends to just park the bus against them, they'll just say that in the press conference. It's not very common here in the US, and I guess that's why fans kind of criticize coaches for saying that, because what did you expect? You knew that Colorado was gonna park the bus. So that was kind of a very interesting thing that De Boer kind of said. Not that this is not the first time that he said things that makes fans kind of a little bit strange and kind of a little bit angry with the way that he kind of said this. But going back to this game, Gressel finally got the goal for Atlanta from Nagby in the 74th minute. It took 74 minutes for Atlanta to grab a goal against Colorado. Yeah, that's when you know that even with this win, there's still going to be a lot of concern of the fact that they just could not break down Colorado in this. And granted, Colorado, they did defend it very well in this game, and they did do a good job bunkering. You would think with the amount of talent that Atlanta has, they should have enough to basically win this game and score more than just the one goal that they did against Colorado. And in terms of shots in this game, Atlanta had 15 shots compared to 6 that Colorado has. 3 shots on goal for both teams. 8 shots off target compared to 2 that Colorado has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Colorado has. And Atlanta had 66% possession compared to 34% possession. And one more thing that I want to note in this game is that right about 3 minutes after Gressel scored that winning goal for Atlanta, Pity Martinez was actually subbed off in this game for Tito Villalba. And as Pity Martinez was substituted on the bench, you can clearly see how he was absolutely frustrated the fact that he was getting substituted. Like, as he was about to walk to the bench, he actually yelled at Frank de Boer and was very angry that he got subbed off. And then when he was on the bench, the camera even caught that he was basically slamming his bench out of frustration, and it took Breck Shea, who is right in front of him, to basically kind of calm him down and the way that the action that he was doing. And I understand that Pity Martinez is absolutely pissed off the fact that he got subbed off in this game, but when you look at the performance that he has in this game, and just in general the performance throughout his time with Atlanta, it has not looked good whatsoever. And this really reminds me of last year when Atlanta decided to splash the cash, decided to give Ezekiel Barco a record amount of money, and that it was a huge flop because Barco kind of he got into disciplinary issue and he wasn't really playing regularly on the field. And now Pity Martinez, they gave him a record amount of money to him, and now he's not performing with Atlanta. This seems very, very similar. And if you're De Boer, do you decided to bench Pity Martinez because of that action? Because when you see those kind of action, usually a coach would decide to bench their players just to it's embarrassing the fact that what Pity Martinez did to show his frustration after he get sub off like that, and the way that he is playing right now. And his substitute Tito Villalba actually made even more impact than what Pity Martinez had done throughout the game. So for De Boer, he's got a tough decision to make, whether if he's going to put Villalba in there instead of Tito Martinez, or not Tito Martinez, but Pity Martinez, that is. Kind of started to get mixed up with both of these names. But does he decide to put Tito Villalba in there instead of putting Pity Martinez in there? Because Villalba seems to be the better option right now. But next up, and it's the final game on this board, it's the Red Bulls. So just like Atlanta, the Red Bulls, they also had a very ugly game against FC Cincinnati, and they were able to just snatch a 1-0 win against FC Cincinnati. And for FC Cincinnati, yeah, they got snake bit in this game, and they got snake bit by the post in this game. In the first half, Connor Lay scores from Royer and White to give a 1-0 lead for the Red Bulls. And then in the second half, that's when the snake bitten happened for FC Cincinnati. Mannix hits the post after he went around Robles, and that as he was trying to round Robles and hit it into the empty net, he basically hit the ball right into the post. And then 6 minutes later, Lamont hits the post after he basically took a shot that cannon off the post. And then right as we head into stoppage time, it was Kendall Waston's turn to hit the post after there was a bit of a scramble in the box, and then Waston was trying to hit it, but it hits the top part of the post. And yeah, for FC Cincinnati, this has got to be very infuriating. The fact that, despite the fact they didn't really play that well in this game, but they hit the post 3 times, and it kind of sums up of what the last couple of weeks and just the past month that FC Cincinnati has with them in this season. They have just been snake bitten. They have just this goal drought that they have right now has now reached to around 360 minutes, and that they have now only scored 1 goal in the last 4 games, or no, not the last 4 games, but the last 5 games, and that goal was off of a penalty. So technically, they still have not scored an open goal since that 2-0 win against New England. And yeah, to get hit the post 3 times like that, yeah, that just shows you that FC Cincinnati luck in terms of scoring is clearly not there. And in terms of the shots in this game, the Red Bulls had 12 shots compared to 8 that FC Cincinnati had. The Red Bulls only had 1 shot on goal in this game, and that was the goal that they scored from Connor Lade in the 38th minute compared to 1 that FC Cincinnati has. But technically, they probably should have had 4 shots on goal because of how many times that they hit the post in this game. 3 shots off target compared to 6 that was off target for FC Cincinnati. 3 of them, of course, came from hitting the post. And the Red Bulls had 8 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that FC Cincinnati has. And FC Cincinnati actually had more of the possession in this game with 54% possession compared to 46% possession. So, yeah, for FC Cincinnati, this is they're going to be feeling very disappointed that I think they should have at least deserved a point with the way that they hit the post so many times in the second half. And for the Red Bulls, well, again, it was an ugly win, and a win that they kind of got a little bit lucky. And certainly after the game, I think if they're going to name man of the match, they better name the post the man of the match. Like, the post basically saved them 3 times in this game. And usually when I see teams that are saved by the post, usually the next game is not going to go very well for the Red Bulls. That's when karma starts to kick in. So I don't want to scare Red Bulls fan, or I don't want to say that Red Bulls will start going on another terrible streak after hitting the post, after seeing their opponent hitting the post 3 times. But just let you know that there's that kind of superstition that is kind of in the way. But that being said, I am now going to switch the board, and I, of course, will see you guys after the LA Galaxy versus RSL game. Alrighty, it's time for the crazy part of the review, because these last 6 games, at least for most of them, there was a lot of crazy things that happened. And there were also a lot of controversial call that happened in most of these last 6 games. So I'm going to try my best to explain these kind of controversial call and basically take my stand of whether or not if this was a good call or not. And feel free in the comments below if you disagree with some of the takes that I have with these controversial play. But that being said, one game that did not really feature a lot of controversy and there wasn't really a lot of craziness is the Houston and Columbus game, where Houston comfortably win 2-0 against the Columbus Crew. In the first half, guess what? It's Manotas, and at least that connection is back. And, you know, this wasn't the best goal you would ever see in the Manotas and the Lee's connection, but it's still a goal, so it counts. And really, I think, first of all, you probably would blame Abubakar for probably should have cleared that one away. And then the second player you probably could have blamed is Zach Steffen. Probably should have saved that, because when the ball was kind of like rolling to the net, I mean, it was redirected by Manotas, and that Steffen, he needs to like quickly readjust himself to save that. But it was rolling so slowly into the net. You would think that he would save that one. You would think that a goalkeeper, which is one of the best goalkeeper in this league and also our national team goalkeeper, would be able to save that. But that did not happen, and just like that, Houston gets a quick 1-0 lead 3 minutes into the game. They double that lead in the second half in the 55th minute with Thomas Martinez. And just like that, that is the final score of this game, as Columbus now have gone 1 goal in 4 games. Now, in terms of the shots for both of these teams, there was actually a lot of shots in this game by both teams, but most of them, especially in Columbus' case, a lot of them wasn't really on target. They had 20 shots compared to 18 that Houston has had. I mean, I don't remember the last time Columbus had more than 15 shots. This is a team that is not known to, you know, this is not a good attacking team, and it's a team that is not known to just shoot from everywhere. But the fact that they kind of did in this game is a little bit surprising. But they only got 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that Houston had. 10 shots apiece off target for both teams. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Houston has. Possession wise, it was pretty even. 51% for Houston and 49% for Columbus. So for Houston, it's a good victory for them. They bounced back after losing for the first time last week against the Galaxy. And for Columbus, yeah, just like their compatriot FC Cincinnati, they are kind of heading on a downward spiral because they cannot score a goal right now. But that being said, let's move on to the next game. And it's the crazy game of the week. And you know how last week I said that Minnesota versus TFC, where that game ended 4-3, was the game of the year because of so many drama, and also there was 2 red cards in that game. It was the same case in this one. There was 2 red cards in this game. There was a lot of craziness that happened, but there was also a lot of controversial play. And I know both fan base is not going to be happy with the way that the referee made some of the decision, and many people will say this is one of the worst refereeing game that you'll see in MLS, which I kind of agree. It was pretty absurd with how many bad calls that was happening in this game. But one thing I will say is that both of those absurd bad call kind of went both sides. And as much as this kind of doesn't sound right, I'm okay with the fact that if there's a game where there's like a lot of absurd call and then it kind of goes both ways, I'm okay with it, because it's kind of like, you know, yes, you're getting a bad call from one of the referee, but you also get benefit from those bad call later in the game, so it's kind of evens out in the end. But in the first half, Caicedo scores from Agudelo and Caldwell to give New England a 1-0 lead. Sporting KC then quickly, well, they didn't quickly equalize. It took them 14 minutes to finally equalize from Namath and Zuzi and Rowe to make it 1-1. And at that point, I thought, okay, most likely they will get things going. I mean, they probably got off to a slow start. Now they probably going to score a couple more goals. But that wasn't the case, because New England, 2 minutes later, retook the lead from Caicedo and Buchanan. And Caicedo, of course, getting his second goal of this game. Then Agudelo give New England a 3-1 lead in this game. And it's a shame that I didn't watch this game, because this game, when I look on the highlights, it looked like a very entertaining game to watch, but I did check this game on my phone a couple of times, and when I saw this was a 3-1 lead for New England, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I know Sporting KC, they have a lot of injury that they're dealing with, but you would think them playing at home against one of the weakest team in the league, they wouldn't be finding themselves 3-1 down at halftime. But that's, of course, what happened in this game. And then in the second half, this is when, if you thought the first half it was crazy, the second half it just gets even more crazy and more controversial. Brandon Bai gets his second yellow card in the 55th minute, and unlike many of those absurd calls, this one was actually a correct call. He deserved a second yellow in this instant. So New England was down to 10 men in this game, and then Gutierrez scores a penalty in the 60th minute to make it 3-2 in this game. But the question is, was that actually a penalty? Because originally, Buchanan kind of shoved Gerso a little bit, and that Gerso basically went down on the ground. And when you look at the replay of it, it didn't look like Buchanan actually made a lot of contact to Gerso, and it looked like Gerso kind of dived in that incident. And they didn't look at VAR in that incident. They stick with the call that it was originally given, which, yeah, that was kind of surprised, the fact that they call a penalty. And a lot of people are very upset with this penalty call of the fact that there's no way in the world that Buchanan made any contact to Gerso, and Gerso basically just kind of dived, which I have a feeling on Wednesday he's going to get a call from the league office that he's going to get fined for embellishment. Now, for Sporting KC, they later win their own penalty 6 minutes later, and then it was New England fans' turn to get angry at penalty kick call, because originally it looks like, it was Sporting KC turn to be angry. Sporting KC was happy the fact that this was a penalty, even though it wasn't. But it was really Sporting KC turn to get angry with the referee calling a bad penalty call, because originally, Johnny Russo kind of handballed it. They didn't actually call it a penalty, and this time they actually did go to VAR, and when they look at VAR, they said it was clear and obvious that Johnny Russo handed the ball. But when you look at the play, I mean, I know Johnny Russo did kind of hand it the ball, but his hand wasn't really in a unnatural position, and if anything, it wasn't clear and obvious that he deliberately handballed that. So, yeah, that, of course, calls was overturned, and New England, of course, gets a penalty, which they did miss, but on the rebound, Jones was able to make it 4-2 in favor of New England. So, yeah, New England, they had a 4-2 lead, although they were down to 10 men, and at that point, they were kind of tried their best to kind of sit back and trying to park the bus against Sporting KC, which, yeah, that probably was not a great idea, especially how bad New England has been in terms of defending. I mean, both team defense was god-awful in this game. Gutierrez then scored his second goal to make it 4-3 in this game for New England. Then it was 4-4 when Namath scored his second goal from Johnny Russo to tie the game up. And then Anubaba gets his second yellow, and New England was down to 9 men at that situation. And I thought, with the way that Sporting KC pushed in those last 20 minutes, I thought for sure that they were going to get the win in that game, that New England was just not going to hold on to get a point in this game. But that didn't happen in this game, and despite 7 minutes of added time that Sporting KC had a chance to get that 5th goal, in the end it was a 4-4 tie between both of these teams. In terms of the shots in this game, Sporting KC had 19 shots compared to 10 that New England has, 6 shots on goal compared to 7 that New England has, 11 shots on target compared to 3 that New England has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that New England has, and actually I meant 11 shots off target. I think I said on target there. And Sporting KC had 75% possession compared to 25% possession that New England has. So Sporting KC absolutely dominate in terms of possession-wise, and it's definitely not every day you see a team with only 25% possession and they still score 4 goals. But at the same time, it's not every day that you see a team score 4 goals on the road in MLS and they don't get all 3 points. And I think that is probably the most frustrating thing if you're a New England fan, besides of the fact that they blew the lead 3 times in this game. I mean, anytime when you score 4 goals or even 3 goals on the road, you should be able to get all 3 points. And as for Sporting KC, well, I guess the good thing about this game is that at least the team shows some resilience. But what's got to be frustrated about this game is that you're playing against New England at home and you have to fight tooth and nail against them. And the fact that you were up a man for the last 35 minutes and you still gave away, well, they did give away a dodgy kind of penalty, but you would think that with Melia saving that, they should, like, they didn't do a good job on, like, I'm not going to blame Melia for letting, like, it wasn't really a direct rebound where Melia saved it and then Jones basically tapped it in. It was kind of a bit of a scramble in the box, and they did a really poor job in terms of trying to clear that one out. So, yeah, for Sporting KC, I think they not only they should have won this game, and when they were up a man, then up 2 men for the last 7 minutes of this game, they should have at least got that 5th goal against a New England team that just looked very fragile at the back. So overall, this was an entertaining game for the neutral to watch, but I'm pretty sure for both teams, they would be very frustrated coming out of this game. But yeah, next up, so in comparison of how there was a lot of crazy thing that happened in this game there wasn't as much crazy thing that happened. But one big headline that did happen in this game is that you remember that guy that plays for Independiente, and he was a star for Independiente in the CCL, and his team of course beat TFC and knocked them out and almost knocked out Sporting KC. And you remember how a lot of people saying that he should get a chance in MLS, and then a couple of weeks ago Montreal finally gave Omar Browning a chance to shine in MLS, and boy did Brownie immediately take that chance, because he scored the only goal in this game. And really, this was bad defending from Chicago. Like, I don't know how in the world this one actually went into the back of the net when Brownie was literally hitting this one from the end line, and that I don't know how in the world did Osted not able to save that. Like, I think maybe it kind of bounced off one of the Chicago defender and then it hits into the back of the net. But still, at the end of the day, from that such an angle, and I usually never see guys able to score goals from like the end line because the angle is completely against them. The goalkeeper would have just easily palmed that one away, but somehow the fact that one still ended up into the back of the net and found a crease, something tells me that the defense and also the goalkeeper, which is Osted in this case, did not do a good job dealing with that, and that was the case in this game. But yeah, that was the only goal of this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, Montreal had 10 shots compared to 7 that Chicago has. Both teams had 3 shots on goal. 4 shots off target for both teams too. 3 shots that was blocked compared to none that Chicago has. And both teams had 50% possession. So possession-wise, it was dead even between both of these teams. And for Montreal, I'll tell you what, they are just red hot right now. And for those that are not taking Montreal seriously, I hope after this game, you will definitely take them seriously, because it is clear that this Impact team is, I think after this game, I believe they're now top of the Eastern Conference, because I know DC lost in today's game and Montreal was very close, like maybe about 2 or 3 points behind DC at this point. But I hope after this game, people will really pay attention to Montreal, because the fact that they're still winning and they're still getting result without Piatti. Imagine if Piatti comes in this team, and that Piatti and Brownie and Tidier are their front three, and also you have a very stealth kind of defense that doesn't give up a lot of goals. This team could easily be a very dangerous team, and really at this point it's no longer a secret or the fact that they are a dark horse team. This team clearly has a chance to maybe even compete for MLS Cup, the way that they've been playing right now, and especially how bad the East has been this season and how everything just fall apart in the East. Yeah, this team looked like the team that most likely could be the one that can actually get into MLS Cup and might represent the Eastern Conference right now. But as for Chicago, well, yeah, this was one of those games where I talk about how they've been inconsistent this year. this was the Chicago side of the fact that they just couldn't do anything, and that is kind of the same side that they show against NYCFC, where they were just toothless in terms of the attack. But I guess maybe it's because they had a midweek game against NYCFC. That's why they kind of were a little bit toothless, and that they were kind of a little bit tired out coming into this game. But at the same time, that game was at New York, and that I know for a fact that the travel distance between New York and Montreal is not as long as some other team that play their midweek game and had to travel all the way across the other side of the country on a short rest. So there's that aspect of the fact that Chicago probably would have done a little bit better, considered even though they have short rest, they only have a short travel distance in terms of playing their next game. But yeah, moving on into the next game, Minnesota. So let me turn on this light. They finally did it. They got a win at the new Allianz Field, and for the first time, they get to say Wonderwall at the new Allianz Field. But it does come with a bit of a controversy, because in the first half, Pines looked like he scored his first ever goal in MLS, and he was basically wheeling off and celebrating with his teammate and also celebrating the people on the bench. But his goal was called back because apparently Frederick Brilliant made contact with the goalkeeper, and a lot of people said that this was not clear and obvious, that Brilliant basically jumped up and basically kind of dragged down Vito Meno, the Minnesota goalkeeper, in that process. But when I look at the replay, I don't see why that's not clear and obvious. You can clearly see Brilliant as he was jumping up. He had a hand on Meno there, and that is as clear as the daylight as a foul on him, and that, I don't see how that was very controversial. I mean, I might be wrong though, but anytime when you're jumping up, I know some people say anytime when you're jumping up you might accidentally touch somebody, but it feels like what Brilliant did in this case, it looked like he intentionally grabbed his left hand and put on the Minnesota goalkeeper as he was leaping up, and then he basically dragged him down. And whether if Manon could have got to that ball before Pines kind of outjumped him, we never know, but I have a feeling maybe he could have done if he wasn't getting pulled from Brilliant in that situation. So yeah, I don't see how that VAR decision was wrong, but I'm pretty sure a lot of DC fans are still very pissed off about that. Now in the second half, it looked like for sure that this was going to head into another 0-0 draw for Minnesota, but Engineer Rodriguez scores for Mentana to give them a 1-0 lead in the 82nd minute, and it was a lovely cross from Mentana to Angelio Rodriguez, who basically heads it in, and that is your final score of this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, Minnesota had 10 shots compared to 13 that DC had, 2 shots on goal compared to 1 that DC had, 1 shots off target compared to 4 that DC had, and 7 shots blocked compared to 8 that DC had. Possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession, and the possession is in favor of DC. So, there was a couple of shots, but still, most of those shots was blocked, and most of them wasn't really heading on target. But at the end of the day, Minnesota able to walk out their first victory at Allianz Field, and I know DC, again, they'll be very frustrated with this call, and that they should have at least got a draw in this game. But at the end of the day, they just don't, like, in terms of the attack, they still look very toothless. And these last couple of games, DC has started to struggle in terms of scoring goals. Like, for the first part of the season, they were scoring goals for fun, in that Rooney and Lucho kind of connection is just going strong. But now it seemed like that, even with them having Rooney in their starting 11, it doesn't seem like the fact that their attack is as good as they were in the beginning of the season. And yeah, they're gonna have to try to figure this out, and that, I know this is the first time they lost on the road this season, but they got to start figuring it out at home, where they have really struggled this season, and that was the complete opposite of what happened last season at Audi Field. But next up is the game of the week, and it's the rematch between the Sounders and LAFC in last week, where LAFC, of course, won 4-1. But obviously, the big talking point is got to be the Rodon red card. But first of all, 40 seconds into the game, Morris gives Seattle a dream start to make it 1-0 in favor of the Sounders. But then 3 minutes later, Vela quickly equalized from Rossi and Harvey. And when you look at the first couple of minutes, you would think that this is going to be a very exciting game, and that it looked like both teams are going to be going off, and there's going to be a lot of fireworks again. But until in the 18th minute, that's when it was kind of ruined in terms of the fact that this could be a good game, because there was some pushing and shoving that was going on in this situation, and Rodon actually got sent off in this instant because it looked like he put his hands in the face of oh god, who I think it was Mark Anthony K that he puts his hands on the face. And you know, we talk about how the hands to the face policy, and how I always said, and whenever you decide to put a hand into the opponent face, yeah, that's obviously a violation of the hand to the face policy. And if there is a scuffle like this happen, then actually no, it was not Mark Anthony K. I'm sorry, it was actually Atuesta that Rodon basically puts a face into it. And Atuesta, yeah, I have a feeling on Wednesday he is definitely going to get a call from the league office and from the disciplinary committee that he's going to get fined for embellishment, because as soon as Rodon kind of touched him a little bit, he basically fell backwards like he just got shot. Like, that is just, like, when you look on slow motion, it's even worse. Like, it didn't look like Rodon actually made a lot of contact, and Atuesta basically just completely sold it. And, you know, going back to what I said about the hands to the face policy, you know, as I said, whenever you put a hand into an opponent's face, especially in a scuffle, then you're risking yourself of getting a red card. But here's where the hands to the face policy kind of is a little bit hard to define, which is, what if it's not intentional, and what if one of the player decide to bump into another player, and then that player who has his hands up accidentally basically touch one of the opponent's face because he got bumped. And that is exactly what happened in this case, when Rodon basically was bumped by one of the LAFC player, and then he actually get into the hand of Atuesta, who, like I said, he basically went down like a sack of potato, and it didn't look like intentional. And I think in the future, I think the league's got to do something in terms of clarifying this hand to the face policy, because we've seen before where hands to the face policy are not implemented very well and have been implemented very inconsistently. But it's also, what happened if it's unintentional? What happened if a player unintentionally put their hands in their opponent's face, and is that still a red card, or is that not a red card? So that's something I think the league's got to figure it out. And there's no doubt that Seattle fans are going absolutely berserk because of that, because they think that it was unintentional and that it shouldn't have been a red card. And as a neutral, I will say that it probably shouldn't have been a red card. I would say maybe it could have been a yellow card, because then there was a yellow card given to one of the LAFC player, and I feel like in these scuffle, usually unless if one of the opponent did some very serious thing, which Rodon, he didn't do much serious thing in this other than just accidentally touch the opponent face, then I think both team or one of their player for both team will get a yellow card in this instance. So yeah, this kind of ruined the game, because after that, LAFC pretty much just completely dominated the game. Seattle, they were just kind of like parking the bus and trying to hold on to this 1-1 draw. But at the same time, right at the end of the game, they had a really decent chance where I believe it was I forgot who it was, but one of the Sounders played basically round the goalkeeper, and then when the ball was played back well, he originally was trying to play the ball back to middle. Jordan Morris had a empty net to basically tap it in, and somehow, in some way, he didn't tap it in. He completely missed it as he was trying to slides in and trying to tap that one in, and that could have easily been 2-1 for the Sounders. Having said that, literally 20 seconds later, LAFC was going on the other end, and then Leerdam had to commit a very, very brave kind of tackle to basically stop LAFC in terms of going through on goal and potentially get that winning goal. And originally they said that it was a penalty, which I was absolutely shocked. And I think even the commentator John Champion and Taylor Twellman says that they were shocked the fact that that was a penalty, because it looked like it was clearly outside the box, and it wasn't even close. It was like a yard outside the box, but yet the ref, they called a penalty on that. Now, to the credit to the ref, they did look VAR in that instant, and they did find out that, yeah, the penalty, of course, happened outside the box. But they did give a red card to Leerdam. Originally, they didn't give a red card to Leerdam in that instant, but now they did because of a denial of goal score opportunity. And as a Seattle fan, I mean, yes, it's disappointed the fact that now you're down to 9 men, but at the same time, you're just happy that that wasn't actually a penalty, which it was clearly not a penalty. And Leerdam, he knew what he was gonna do. Like, I think that this is one of the rare time I would say a player getting a red card. This was a good red card to take for Leerdam, because if he did not foul the LAFC player that was going through on goal, LAFC would have scored, and that would have been 2-1, and that would have been game over for the Sounders. So yeah, that's one of the time that he did a good job in terms of stopping a promising attack. And as a result, Seattle, they're able to get a point out of this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, will clearly show that they were just hanging on for dear life after that red card. They got outshot 21-4 by LAFC in this game. 5 shots on goal compared to 3 that Seattle has. 12 shots off target compared to only 1 that was off target for the Sounders. And in terms of block shot, the Sounders didn't have any compared to 4 that LAFC had. And LAFC had 74% possession compared to 26% possession. It's not every day you see a road team getting 74% possession in a game, but that's what it was in this one. And for LAFC, they'll be very disappointed the fact that they didn't get all 3 points, because they were absolutely dominating Seattle. Like, it was a one-way traffic game after the red card, and all they need to do was put the ball into the back of the net, but they just couldn't do that. And if you're the Sounders, you'll be happy the fact that you got a point out of this game, but you would be very upset because of this red card, and now the fact that these 2 guys are probably going to be suspended for the next game. And knowing Seattle has already have injuries that they have to deal with, this will definitely have some serious consequences in terms of their future games. But yeah, finally, moving on to the final game of this match week. The Galaxy. So they won 2-1 against RSL, and this was kind of a game of 2 halves between both of these teams. The first half, LA Galaxy absolutely dominate in this game, and they were rewarded when Atuna scores from Ponies and Polenta to make it 1-0, and then they had a lot of chances to potentially make it 2-0. RSL defense was just all over the place in the first half. But then in the second half, the script basically completely flipped. Like, it feels like the Galaxy, after all that good work that they did in the first half, they didn't do anything in the second half. And instead, it was RSL turn to basically be the more dominant side and be the team that had more of the possession. And I guess maybe that has to do with the fact that the Galaxy, knowing that they did play a midweek game and they had to travel all the way across the other side of the country to play this game, the fatigue level was really getting into the Galaxy, and the players, they started to really drop in terms of fitness, and RSL finally were able to capitalize on all those chances that they have when Toyas scores to get the equalizer. And then a couple of minutes later, Zlatan actually got into a little bit kind of I wouldn't say a scuffle, but it kind of got into a little bit of a trash talk to one of the RSL player. And one thing I know is that you never want to trash talk Zlatan. You never want to decide to have an argument with Zlatan, because when you do that, he's going to take that as something that will fuel him, and it's something that is he's going to take some motivation, and that later on you're going to be made to pay for that. And that is exactly what happened in the 78th minute. Zlatan scores from Legit to give the Galaxy a 2-1 lead, and this was completely against the run of plays. The Galaxy had barely any possession in the second half, or any chance in the second half, and all they had is this one chance that they had, and Zlatan, of course, capitalized that. And then Zlatan, when he scored the goal, instead of celebrating, he continued to bark at that RSL player and saying that, yeah, this is what you get for trash talking to me. And I know a lot of fans will not be happy with this, and Zlatan actually got a yellow card originally when he was trash talking to that player, and he could have easily got a second yellow for doing that, because anytime when you decide to trash talk after scoring a goal, yeah, that is definitely a bad sportsmanship. But knowing Zlatan and his ego and all the crazy things that he has done, it's not surprising that he of course does that. And I know there's going to be a lot of hate, and there's also going to be a lot of love for those that like Zlatan. So yeah, that was the final score of this game. And in terms of the shots in this game, it tells you that RSL, in the second half, they really dominated, and the 22 shots that they had, most of them came in the second half, and most of them probably should have been in the back of the net compared to 11 that LA has. RSL had 7 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Galaxy had, 6 shots off target compared to 4 that the Galaxy had, 9 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Galaxy had, and then the Galaxy had 55% possession compared to 45% possession that RSL has. So, for the Galaxy, it's another ugly wins that they had. I mean, these last couple of games, I gotta say, the Galaxy, they have been very lucky in these last couple of games. And I know in the standings, they are like one of the best team in the league. But when you look at how they've been playing in these last couple of games, I will say that they've been kind of riding their luck a little bit, and that Zlatan has been at times bailing them out. And that if they did not have Zlatan, who knows where this team could have been. Now, obviously, Galaxy fans will say that, well, I'm a Quakes fan. Of course I'm going to have to bring some hate, which it makes sense. And also, we did win a game without Zlatan. Well, yes, you did win again without Zlatan, but that was only one game, okay? So, until you started to win multiple games without Zlatan, then I will think that this team is actually decent. But it just feels like this team is too reliant on Zlatan, and that something tells me that when teams are like RSL in this game, they did a really good job for majority of the game containing Zlatan and kind of double team them. Something tells me that that's what every team is going to do from now on. Every team is going to try to double team Zlatan. They're going to try to shut him down, and as long as if you shut him down, then the Galaxy will have a bit of a trouble in terms of scoring goals. So, yeah, that would be the thing that I think, and it will be interesting to see if the Galaxy can continue this of the way that they've been winning a lot and that they've been riding their luck a couple of times. And as for RSL, yeah, this is a very disappointing loss, because you had this game. Like, in the second half, you had the chances of maybe not only getting the equalizer, but even getting like more than one goal and getting the lead in this game to get a surprising victory. And one thing I didn't mention about this fixture is that I forgot to mention RSL has a very good record against the Galaxy. I mean, last year, remember that 6-2 win by RSL? Yeah, so that they do have a very good record against them. But the only reason why I said in the preview that I don't really give a lot of chance for RSL is because, the Galaxy has been pretty hot lately, and RSL, their roll form isn't that very good so far this season, and that's why I favored the Galaxy in this one. But having said that, that is pretty much it for all the review of these 12 games. Tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing or previewing the only games that's going to be happening this week. So there's only going to be one game. There's not going to be like 5 games, and it's not going to be a very congested kind of midweek game. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.